despite milk price volatility. We all know what volatility is. So milk price, I'm just focusing here now, we'll say that if that's the average milk price and we're in an extended down at the moment, on the grass-rich route, the Chinook type route, we'll say that, that Donald Patton was talking about, still very profitable. Grass-poor route, Northern Ireland, we'll say that losing, I was told this morning, about 5 pence a litre on average, grass-poor route, with all the hardship and trauma and whatever that entails. So question will say that, which one do you want to be? In November, the Positive Farmers had a study tour in New Zealand, and about 70% of New Zealand farmers are estimated to be losing money, and depending on the price, that could actually be, that might be 10 or 15% higher. Now, they're under considerable financial personal stress. Depending on the individual, a lot of them are trying to take somewhere between 15 to 40% of the previous year's costs out. And we'll say they're tinkering with costs right across the system, their current systems, and it's not working very well. In contrast, the farmers we were actually visiting, top farmers, and despite everything you hear about New Zealand losing the plot, which is true of many people, but the best farmers in New Zealand, the people we were going to, they are still the best grass-based dairy farmers in the world. Be very clear on that now. And we're lucky that we have Donald and Marie Anderson here as an example of that. They were profitable, relaxed, no stress, and they see opportunities if the milk price stays down. Remember, volatility is the friend of very efficient dairy farmers over time. But were these people, these very, the absolute top farmers, were they tweaking their systems? In most cases, they were making nil change. Nil change was the usual pasture. Occasionally, they might be deferring a little bit of maintenance, or maybe the herd testing, milk recording, something like that, leaving it alone for a year. And what differentiates these top farmers from the 70 to 90% losing money? Well, first of all, I'd say total clarity about two things. One, why farm? And they want to run a business, a resilient, robust, low-risk, profitable business that through good times and bad times will give them an excellent lifestyle and a choice of options. High free cash, high free time, lots of good business options, lots of good family options, would say. And they're very clear, they're not there to produce X or whatever, we'll say. And to achieve this, what's important? And particularly for the students, it's important you actually get this into your heads. Because if you get this into your heads, it's really simple. In Ireland, we're largely on commodity milk, and milk prices volatility fluctuates widely. So you need a total focus on low-cost systems. Why? Low cost is the single best predictor of profits, and it's reliably achieved, as Johnny McNamara described this morning as Chinook, by 100% focus on grass-rich systems. Remember, he said they don't feed the cows. If the feed wedge needs a tiny bit of tweaking, they'll feed a tiny bit of meal. And the overwhelming research evidence in New Zealand and Ireland supports this contention. So if you disagree with this, you're actually flying in the face of an enormous amount of research evidence. So the key predictor of profit, very simply, it's cost. Low cost, high profits. High cost, low profits. And to drive this home a bit further, there's a lot of research, and again, get this into your heads, we'll say that, and irrespective of the nonsense you hear at different times, costs of production, they're 4 times more important than milk yield per cow. They're twice as important as production per hectare, and they're 14 times more important than extra meal fed per cow. You might well wonder why people who are doing a good job are now feeding extra meal. It's 1/14 as important as costs of production. They're driving up costs of production to achieve more production of false god instead of targeting higher profits, which is sanity. So focus on the key drivers and the relative cost per kg of dry matter. These figures are different than the one shown this morning, but these are including the extra costs associated with feeding, not just the feed itself. And anywhere I'm farming, now the Chile, New Zealand, even in continental, the States, and Ireland, and certainly the UK, relative costs, grasses 1, silage 2.5 or 3, meal 4 to 6. That's total costs associated with them. So think a wee bit of a cow eating in the year 100 feed units. And if you can get 75 low-cost units at 1 into a cow and 25% of only 25% of high-cost units, that cow, the costs associated, costs of production, will be far cheaper than if you have 75% high-cost and only 25% low-cost. It's really simple stuff. And again, we'll say that down here we have the percentage grazed grass. So going left, high grazed grass. Going right, little grazed grass. And up here is profits. I probably want you to really focus in now on about 75% grazed grass, which is roughly where Chinook would be. Costs, we'll say, this is a diagram, we'll say, Pat Dillon from Moore Park. Costs of something like 22.5 cents. In comparison, duck over here will say that Northern Ireland, it's probably somewhere like this, 2.5 tons of meal per cow average, will say that somewhere like this. And the difference between that 35.6 and say about 22, we'll call this happiness, profitability. We'll call this losing 5 cents a litre on average. That's about minus 7 euro cents a litre. And this is driven. It is driven by the choice of system. You can tinker until you're blue in the face if you're up in this sort of area, but you will not achieve good costs of production. So the drivers of low cost. First one is grazed grass. It's the cheapest feed you can give a cow. It's that simple. And the more of it you can do, the better. And I'm not going to refer again to cows. We'll say Matt Ryan will say that we'll cover a little bit on this area. But you're looking for cows high EBI, high fertility, which I would define, by the way, as 2 to 4% empty in 10 weeks breeding season. Calve compactly. I love the Chinook figure, 93% calved in 6 weeks. Good longevity, 5 to 5.5 lactations a cow, and efficient feed converters. Important, but nothing like as important as on the grass side. Optimizing grass. Grow high tons. Now on good land, not everybody's on good land, but something like the range of 14 to 18. Mick O'Donovan sort of reminded me the pasture base, which is 600 or 700 cows or something like that, Pat. 600 or 700. The averaging 14 tonnes this year. But as you saw in the case of Clonakilty, 17.5 odd, we'll say. And there are farmers doing better. We mentioned Mike McGann will say that he's trotting away at plus 18. So, and farmers who are focusing on driving up that figure will say that they're achieving good results. And if you have a continuous focus on good residuals, you will get high utilization, perhaps plus 85% on dry land. You won't do it in wetland. And also those good residuals will get you very high digestibility, 12 to 12.5. And this has been shown already at this conference. The higher the pasture consumed, grass consumed per hectare, the higher the profits. Is it that simple? There's actually just one element still missing. The optimizing grass. You need to match the stocking rate precisely with the grass growth per hectare. As well as consuming high tons, you also go back on that, the percentage grazed grass, to actually get up around 70 to 75, which is your target area. You need to match the stocking rate very precisely with the tons of grass grown in your farm. Just how you do it, and again, this has partly been covered. Using these assumptions, and change the assumptions, you change the stocking rate. A crossbreed cow roughly eating 5 tonnes of dry matter a year, fed 1/4 of a tonne dry matter of meal, therefore 4 3/4 tonnes of grass and silage. If you're growing 16 tonnes, good performance, utilising 85%, that's 13.6 tonnes utilised. And the optimum stocking rate for that farm is 13.6 divided by 475, it's 286. Or again, we'll say that just a range. I'd just like to sort of draw your attention. If you're at 14, you should not be stocked at 3.22. You will get, if you're stocked at 3.22, you will get high pasture consumed per hectare, but because of the extra feed you'll need, that you'll be pushing in on the shoulders, your costs of production will be well up, we'll say. So it doesn't pay you to go beyond the proper stocking rate. So a big question, why do people focus on milk yield per cow? And we can see, somebody rebuked me for in the first steak talk, you snake oil salesman. But basically he's drawing money out of your pockets. And slick salesmen are possibly bragging rights. But in terms of, instead of taking money out of your pocket, the sure route to putting money into your pocket, go the Chinook route. And we'll just say, in terms of a farm, 100 hectares, currently growing 13 tonnes. Chinook has quietly been improving performance from 10 tonnes the first year, 15, and I'm very confident, by the way, that 15 will say that in 3 or 4 years it won't stop at 15. So just say, we'll say that really focusing on things, because what you focus on is what you move towards. Utilisation, if you switch it from 75 to 85, you will have an increase from 9.75, which some people would regard as good. I personally wouldn't. I'd much prefer to see it up around the 14.45. And 975 as against 1445, it's an extra 470 tonnes of grass dry matter off the same area. Now I put down a figure of 200 per extra tonne utilised. We'll say that Lawrence said today, we'll say that, or in the last couple of days, that currently is a figure of 185. So you can adjust that slightly. I'm exaggerating. Take off a couple of thousand. But I think the message is pretty clear. So if you're losing, ask a fundamental question. Is my focus wrong? Is the system wrong? Do I need to focus on low-cost production? Instead of tinkering with costs, treat this slightly longer than usual downturn as a God-given opportunity to have one bloody good look at your system and go the right route. Decide to go the grass-rich route. It is the surest way to put a lot of money into your pocket. Consistently, reliably, you'll get the trust of your banks if you want to expand, we'll say. They will happily bank people who are profitable year in, year out, irrespective. So, probably the Stockdale paradox. By the way, there is a small bit in the paper of just a few actions, we'll say that the last page, which I'm not going to go through, we'll say that if anybody's in trouble, we'll say just a few simple little suggestions. But the Stockdale paradox, and this is particularly directed now at anybody who is losing money in the audience, and hopefully there are very, very few. Retain faith that you can and will prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties. And at the same time, confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Thanks very much.